Hey, this is Brian, thanks for watching Kies. In today's video, we have Bill's G87 M2 back in the house. And if you've been following our channel for any length of time, you'll know that we picked up Bill's G87 the day they were released. We brought it back to the studio and we immediately put $26,000 worth of products in it. But there was one problem. There was no AWE exhaust. And even if you watched the video from a year ago, you'll notice that I was really itching for an American-made, 50-state legal, great sounding exhaust. But guess what? Today, it is finally available. I'm going to show you how to install it, and then I'm going to show you how good it sounds. Now, as many of you know, AWE is one of my favorite brands. I run this on my 1,000 horsepower G80 M3, my 1,000 horsepower F80 M3, my Raptor, my 328. In most cars that I've had an AWE exhaust on. They come in two different versions. You have the switch path, which is what this is. This is the more tame of the two options. It has valves and all of that, so you can make them quiet or loud. Or they also have the track, which is essentially just a straight pipe. So if you're looking for max volume and you don't really care about valves, that's gonna be the way to go. Now, for me personally, I always like the valved option, so this is how I go. Now, in addition to the axle back being installed today, we're going to be installing the mid pipe as well. What the mid pipe does is it deletes another resonator. So these systems leave your catalytic converters in place, which is why they're 50-state compliant, because they're not touching anything emissions. But if you want it a little bit louder, that's when you add the mid pipe. We're going for max volume, but max controlled volume. So that's why we're installing the switch path with the mid pipe as well. And then when it comes down to tips, you either have this blacked out look, which is going to go really good with Bill's car, or they're also available in chrome. All of those are available at kies.com, Kies.com. We have links for you for all the tools and parts we're using today down in the description below. So with that, let's get started with the install. As you can see behind me, we will be using a lift for this video. That is strictly for the better camera angles for you guys to see exactly what we're doing. If you're going to be doing this at home, we highly recommend something like a jack and jack stand, or if you want, I think the easiest way is to get some race ramps. You can roll right up on them. They're safe, they're secure, and they work great, and we use them here all the time. So with that, let's put the car up in the air and get started. Now, for today's project, we're going to do it with as basic a tools that we could get, and we're going to make sure that we do it so that you guys can do it from home with ease. Now, for this project, we are going to have to make two cuts in the exhaust. For that, we're going to be using a very basic exhaust cutter. Typically, we would use some kind of cutoff wheel or a Sawzall or something like that, but to make sure that you guys could do it with ease at home, we're going to be doing it the most basic way we can. So that being said, let's start out by marking the two cut points. Again, these cut points are intended if you are installing a mid pipe. If you're not, refer to AWE's instructions, which we'll have linked for you down below for the cut point that you need to make on your kit. All right, the first cut point that we need to make, you want to measure from the end of this bracket over, and it's going to be 60 millimeters or 6 centimeters. Okay, so I am going to cut that side of that line. Then for the other side, we need it to be 108 millimeters. So 2 lines shy of 11 centimeters. Okay, and again, I'm going to be cutting that side. That was a terrible arrow. There we go. That wasn't much better. Now the way that these work, you simply feed the chain over, and it has all these little cutting wheels. Then you find the smallest one that you can, which for me is going to be right about there. Then you line it up, and then you're just going to apply light to medium pressure, and you just need to rotate it about a quarter of the distance or so, and it's going to just very slowly just work it through, and it's going to provide a super nice clean cut, and then just increase as you go and start cutting away. All right, so once you're done that side, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. I did do a little tool switcheroo here because this steel is so strong, you will burn through the tool. So I would recommend having at least 2 on hand. If you get this style, this is pretty cool because you can control the tension just from this. So it makes it a little bit easier to use. It's about twice as much as the other one, but I think it works a little bit better. Here we go. All right, so now that these are cut, what we need to do is we need to release these exhaust hangers over here. There's a support brace, and then we also have a couple hangers in the rear. So let's actually start, before we do any of that, by disconnecting the electrical connection on the actuator. So to do this, all you do, there's a little tab. This does have a valve controller on it, but it's going to be the same principle. Just pull out any lock and then just pull it straight out. Sometimes people get carried away and they forget about these and they destroy the cords. So do them now before you forget. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the bolt up here. So all of these are 13 mil. So it's right over here. And this is the only bolt. All of the other ones are nuts, but they're all 13 mil. So that's what it looks like. I'm just gonna thread it back in before I lose it. Okay, so that can hang out there. Now to remove the brace, you have 3 of these 13 mils over here, 3 on the other side. So at this time, remove all of those. Okay. All right, so what we're doing now is Zach is holding this side. We need to disconnect the 13 mil over here, and then there's one on the other side. Then we're going to do the last 2, and we're going to rock it out. On this car, we have a very aggressive diffuser, so it might be a little bit tight. If you have a factory diffuser, it's gonna come off with ease. So let's drop it down. That side off. Got that side off. All right, Zach. At this point, as you can see, we have our factory exhaust off the car. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start installing the AWE, starting with this piece of the mid pipe. You're going to know it's the correct one because it has this little piece of metal. It's going to be our exhaust hanger. So if you take one of these tools, you can also do it with a screwdriver if you want. It's a little more challenging. You can remove the old hanger, pull it off like so. And then you're going to install it on the new one. Just let it hang like that. And then before you install it, get the appropriately sized clamp. And I like to put it on in this orientation here. Whenever you put these clamps on, you want to note where the bolt is going to be to make sure it's not going to hit anything. And if you do it over here, it's going to go just fine. So now that we have this, let's go throw it on the car. All right, so I'm just going to unscrew this. I'm going to take this pipe. That's going to slide on here just like that. And you can take that bolt you removed and just thread it through just like this. And I am going to leave everything super loose for now. I'm just gonna snug this up so it doesn't fall on my foot. But for the other clamp, I'm gonna leave it loose until I have everything in place. And then from there, we'll be able to start to really tighten everything down. Okay, so that looks good there. Make sure it's sliding on far enough, just like that. So everything is looking perfect so far. All right, now we're going to do the same thing with the other pipe. Again, I like to put it on the inside. And a lot of times if you rock it down, it'll help you slip it on into place. So with this one, because I don't have an exhaust hanger to kind of have it hang out, I am going to just loosely tighten this, just so it doesn't fall. And I'm tightening this with a 16 mil. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to assemble the muffler section of the AWE. First thing we need to do is remove the actuators and switch these over. These are held in by 3 10 millimeters. Okay, that's gonna come off like that. All right, so then you're going to take this piece, which is included in your AWE kit. And this, if you look in here, there's a little groove. So this, the big part goes down, just like that. And then this little bar right there, you need to catch in this little groove. So first thing I like to do is kind of look at it and see how the groove is and how everything's lined up. And I can tell that this needs to get twisted like that or it's not gonna fit. So that looks great. So you can take this, slide it on, make sure everything lines up nice. Then once you're good, you can take the 3 10 millimeter nuts and secure those down. Then from here, we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the outer sections onto the muffler. As you can see, we've already installed our clamp over here. And as I said earlier, I like to make it so that the bolt is super easy to have access to. So I like to put it in the back facing down. You're just gonna slide it on. Just like that. You can see this is where the one tip is gonna go. This is where the second tip is gonna go. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Just kind of wiggle this on. And we're gonna leave it pretty loose until we get up on the car, and then we can do some fine adjustment. But before we can install it on the car, I need to borrow the exhaust hangers off the factory exhaust. Now, when you take these off, it's always a really good idea to remember what orientation they came off the car. So I'm just gonna leave that there for a second, and we'll do the same with the other one. Now you can take these and install them on the AWE. Now what we're going to do is we are going to get this part and we're going to install it on the car. Now, as you may have seen earlier, we have a very aggressive aftermarket diffuser on this car. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the tips in one of these microfiber towels just to make sure I don't scratch anything. And then we're gonna put the tips on at the very end of the video. So with that, let's install the muffler. All right, so if you're doing this part alone, I would recommend using some kind of jack to just hold that in place. Now let's go grab the other pieces off the table. All right, so while that's being held up, we're going to complete the rest of the exhaust. First thing you need to do though, just remove these remaining two hangers. Then what you can do is take your clamp, put it on here like that. Then you can take this clamp, and just so you guys can see the numbers and all, this says G04 and this one is G05. This is passenger, this is driver's side. So then you're gonna take the X pipe. It's going to look like this if you're looking at it from under the car. You can slide this piece on here. Slide this piece on here. Then you're going to have these other beveled clamps over here. And as you can see, the fitting is going to be very unique. The one side basically looks like this, and then the other side looks like this. But what's really cool about it is you can kind of swivel it if you need to make any adjustments. So I really like that style. So what I'm gonna do with this one, I'm just gonna take it, and I'm just gonna hang it over and hang it over. Now, last thing we need to do before we go put this on the car is install these clamps over here. So I'll just throw them on like that. Like that. One of the reasons that I recommend pre-installing these before you go over there is, as you can see, these two pipes over here, they're pretty straight, so it's easy to slide in. When you look at these two pipes, when you're trying to slide something in like this, it just doesn't work. So you want to make sure that you slide these in after you pre-assemble this. So with that, let's throw it on. Now, before we drop these, I'm just going to slide these on here. And you can take this section, line it up, slide it in. Don't forget to put these clamps on, otherwise you're going to be fishing for one once you get everything installed. Okay, and you can start to install your hangers. With these clamps over here now, you want to just get it as close as you can. And then with a 13, just start to snug these up. Again, I'm not gonna go crazy on anything. I just wanna make sure that everything is staying together while I make some adjustments. And we'll tighten these hangers down. And then you can also start to position your clamps where you'd like them. All right, from here, what you can start to do is just align everything, especially when it comes to your tip alignment and all. We can start to take some of this off now that we have it a little better. I am gonna have to do some alignment, but that's not gonna hit the carbon so far, so that's great. Same thing with this. I am going to need to pull this down or push this up a little bit. So now what you can do is start to do your fine tuning. A lot of times what you can do, if something isn't quite right, if you just give one of these pipes a little twist, it'll change some of the geometry of the exhaust. Start to level everything out and then tighten everything up with a 16 mil. Now, one of the areas that you're really going to have to pay attention to, and again, I just snugged everything up. It is still able to be moved with how I have it right now. One of the things you have to keep in mind in this area specifically is this is gonna have to go up pretty high because remember, you have this little brace here that's going to go across. And if I tried to install it now, it would smash this pipe. So one of the things you might wanna do over here is start to twist it up a little bit. That'll help position these pipes up. And then also another thing you can do is twist these. And that'll also have an impact on the height of this as well. Let's give this a test. All right, looking good there. I just want to go a little bit higher on this pipe. Now, if you start to get a little bit close to the heat shield to prevent rattling, what I recommend is just very gently just kind of pry back on some of that heat shield just so you have a little bit of space like that. I think we have this in a really good position. So let's install the center brace, check it out. And then as long as this is good, we can do a final tightening of the two front ones, these two, and these two. And then what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to lower the car a little bit so I can take a look into the diffuser and check out the alignment of these pipes. And then we can finally do these two, do some stuff with the valves, and then we're pretty much done. So with that, let's do a final test of this brace here and we'll see if it fits. All right, we are golden. Now, if you're ever looking for more clearance, another thing that you could do is you could always just stick a washer under here. We've done that a ton in the past with a variety of different exhausts. If you just need a little bit more clearance, maybe you have stuff already snugged up and you don't want to mess with it anymore, it's definitely an easy way out. Okay, I'll just snug these up. All right, so with that, let's do a final tightening of some of these clamps and then we'll work on the back. All right, from here, what you can do is just make sure that your tips are aligned. Remember, the center muffler is detached, so it can swing up and down, and you wanna make sure that everything is as centered in these holes as possible. Once again, I've said it like 3 times now. This is an aftermarket diffuser. It's very aggressive. Yours is going to be, once you have this on, a little bit easier to adjust than this because I also have to worry about the bottom height as well, where you should only have the top. So this side looks pretty good. Let me check this side out. Okay, I could go this way a little bit. All right, everything looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snug up these 2 clamps that hold the muffler section, and then I'm going to start to align the tips. Okay, it's getting tight. Let's see. Woo! Man, we are super tight. We got it in. All right, let me throw the other ones in. We'll tighten it all down. That looks so cool though. Just like super aggressive. All right, let's tighten them down. All right, then what you can do once everything is aligned and tightened down, you take these little pieces right here, these slide on, and then you can tighten it down with the included Allen, and that's going to make sure that it's not going to go left and right. So we put one over there, and we get one on the other side. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to take these extenders to plug in our valves. So take your OEM connection, plug it in, and you can plug this into the top of your valve, and I am going to zip tie that up in just a moment. Same thing over here. All right, at this part of the process, everything is fully installed and tightened down, tied up out of the way, and we are ready to rock. So let's pull it off the lift and see how it sounds. All right, here we are doing our road test. That's what we're missing. This car sounds so good. Right now we have the valves open in sport mode with a little burble action, and it sounds so good. It's so familiar because I have the same exhaust on my car, but it's such a good tone. So many of the exhausts on the market, they sound like real tinny and just like, I know everyone's all like worried about like single mid pipes and that kind of stuff. This is such a good sounding exhaust, especially cruising some back roads in a manual M2 with this exhaust. It's like the total package. We just put it on AGT suspension, have some new wheels and tires, and with the exhaust and our tune, oh my gosh, this car is so good. It has about 620 horsepower on E30 right now. So you got the power, you've got this amazing sound coming out the back. The ride is great, the handling is great. This is one of the best driving cars on the road. You've seen the exhaust now, you've heard the exhaust. It sounds amazing, it looks incredible. I love it. I mean, that's why I have it on the green machine next to me. I have AWE on my 328, I have AWE on my Ford Raptor, I have it on the F80 M3, I had it on my old M340i. You guys know I love it. It's made in America. I've physically been there. I've seen them physically 3D scan, model out exhausts, and actually physically make them in Pennsylvania. They sound good. They try to make them 50 state legal, and all of that just checks a lot of boxes for me. And it's a huge bonus that it looks good, and also it sounds amazing. And if you're interested in one for your car, even if you don't have an M2, a Ford Raptor or something else, we have it for tons of different makes and models. So be sure to see the links down in the description. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Check us out at kies.com, Kies.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.